Okay. I wanted to talk about black-brown relations, specifically in Los Angeles. This is a topic that has been coming up for like the last 25 years, since the 90s. It kind of resurfaced. I think it resurfaced because of a video that Tyga did.
Yeah.
Tyga did a video that people found offensive because it was highlighting a lot of Mexican or Latino stereotypes. And that kind of spearheaded this conversation. Did you see that video? What did you think?
I saw it. I thought he was just being silly, trying to be, kind of goofy. And I don't think he was being, mean-spirited with it. I thought that, he was trying to just kind of do a parody of Hispanic culture or Mexican culture, so to speak. And some people said, hey man, that's kind of insensitive. And like a man, he's like, you know what? All right, if that's insensitive, I won't even fuck with it. I'll take it down. And the problem that a lot of people had is some of the people pointing the finger at him saying, hey, that's insensitive. These were some damn anti-black racists themselves. And they were like, hey, the dude pointing the finger at Tyga, look at what this dude has been saying about black folks. And it ain't no jokey joke shit. This dude is saying some real funny style stuff. So now that conversation has come back up with a lot of the anti-black racism that comes out of not just Mexican culture, but Latino culture. That's a real thing. And if we want to talk about a black-brown coalition, that's something that has to be addressed. Nobody ever really talks about the culture of anti-black racism that comes out of Hispanic society. That's always been there. That's been there for centuries.
Now, you were talking about American Cholo is the Latino guy that did you put a video together of all of the things that he said?
No, that was some people at No Jumper. They put some stuff together.
Well, Adam22 said he got the video from Tariq Nasheed.
No, he didn't. He got that from his own people. No, I didn't put that video together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I had words with that guy before, the Cholo guy. Me and him had words online between each other before.
Now, what is it? You guys been going back and forth on issues, and why is it difficult for a Latino brother and a black dude to kind of come to a happy medium somewhere?
Great question, because I've offered Cholo to come to my joint. I've offered to go to his spot. He declined. Because, all of this, name calling, I don't do that bullshit. You see me and you say what you got to say to me right here. But he declined. My thing is, a lot of videos that he's done hadn't got nothing to do with me. That guy's been saying real slick shit about black people for years, and people have called him out for being an anti-black racist. Nothing to do with me. He's talked about we shouldn't get reparations, just a whole bunch of weird shit. And unfortunately, man, that part of the culture is something that people don't want to address. Coming out of Latino culture, man, there's that meta la raza thing where you improve the race and black people are marginalized within that culture. And people come here with that same mentality and want to do it to us. And we don't do that. We don't have a racist coalition against Latinos. We are the ones who are welcoming and helping many Latinos get here. If you look at all the black organizations, NAACP, the Urban League, the Congressional Black Caucus, these are the main organizations that are helping Latinos get over here. The DACA program. The DACA program is the Dreamer program. The Dreamer is based off the speech by Dr. Martin Luther King. So we're always sharing what meager resources we have and using our political power to help these other groups come over. For them to come over and start talking greasy about us, where's the coalition? So we're saying if we're going to have a real coalition, we're not going to have another colonizer come over, and we're not going to assist another colonizing group to have the same anti-black vitriol towards us and us pretend that that's a coalition, because it's not.
Well, in terms of the reparations, I actually had a debate with American Cholo on reparations. And in that debate, he actually said, Alex, you actually have me looking at this issue a little bit differently. He has spoken against it from a perspective of tax-paying citizens shouldn't be paying reparations for other groups. That's his position.
Which is ironic, because tax-paying citizens are paying for immigrants to come over to get housing and all types of food and medical expenses. So we do that now, but okay, all right.
No, I found that as a weak excuse, because we pay for wars, $40 billion a month, I believe, for the Afghanistan-Iraqi war.
Yes, indeed.
We can't break some people off for reparations that are descendants from slaves.
Right.
I find, and it really showed me that there is money in this government for reparations is COVID. COVID proved
absolutely
there is money.
Absolutely, they pulled a few $1 billion out of nowhere. Absolutely.
But I've had pleasant debates and conversations with American Cholo. I myself wouldn't put the racist label on him, because that's a high threshold for me. For me to call you racist, you got to reach a certain threshold that mine might be a little strict, yours might be a little. You say one thing and you're already in that category.
But there's several other people who've called him and said
Yeah.
that man's, that's not even a secret. Several people have established that this guy is pretty much an anti-black racist. Hell, even some Latinos said, hey man, you a little bit too racist for us. He ain't like us. They have distanced themselves from that type of stuff, which is good. That has to be called out. We can't coddle that type of stuff. See, Tiger, he wasn't being nefarious, and they said, that's racist, cut it out. He said, okay, cool. We can't coddle people who are practicing anti-black racism and normalizing it. There was a story that came out in the LA Times last week about how a lot of Latino supervisors out here in LA, there are a lot of discrimination lawsuits against Latino supervisors because of the stuff they're doing to black employees. They're doing a lot of slick stuff to black employees all over LA. That's a major thing, and there's several lawsuits floating around the city right now. We got to clean that up if we're going to have a real coalition. That's something that we just can't keep ignoring.
Now, back to the reparations. There's a sister here in the state of California that wrote a bill that wants to push the needle forward on reparations. Mm-hmm. And then there's some conversation in Washington D.C. about it. Do you feel like we're getting closer to really making reparations a real thing?
Yeah, we are. And the people working on it in California, I've been working with these people. They had some reparations meetings. I was a part of some of the online meetings. I spoke at some of them. So we've been on their bumper, really making sure the language is correct in some of these meetings and who's going to get what. Because what happens is you get some of these Democratic shield groups who basically want to undermine reparations. So they'll get out here and talk about, well, reparations should be for everybody. Any black person who suffered from discrimination and all that. No, we can't do that because that opens the door for reparations to be undermined. It has to be for a very specific group, meaning foundational black Americans. So we've been on them about the language. The language has to be very specific. So I think it will happen. We just have to stay focused about it. But I think it's going to happen.
Give me your strongest argument in support for reparations and reparations right now.
Reparations right now, and we should have been have reparations because foundational black Americans built this country from scratch. If it were not for foundational black Americans giving hundreds of years of free labor, this country would not be in the position it's in right now. And the whole argument was that was long ago. No, the money is not long ago. The money generated and the wealth is still here. Money doesn't disappear. It gets compounded and passed down through generations. The money has been passed down and the debt of slavery has been passed down generationally to us, and we have to be repaired. Nobody has a problem with Native Americans getting compensated. They don't say that was long ago. That was long ago, and they get casinos and they get compensated now. Nobody says, well, I wasn't there when the Native Americans are getting chipped off. No, I didn't have anything to do with Native Americans getting put on reservations, but my tax dollars go to help them. I didn't have anything to do with people being put in concentration camps in Nazi Germany. Some of my tax dollars go to that. I didn't have anything to do with the Japanese out here on the West Coast being put in internment camps during World War II. When they started giving them money in the 80s and 90s, that was some of my tax dollars. So 9/11, when those buildings went down in New York, some of our tax dollars went to the victims of that. I didn't fly no planes into nobody's building, but when it comes to us, everybody wants to waive responsibility. Everybody has benefited from the slavery of foundational black Americans and the free labor that we provided the wealth for. Everybody benefits from that right now, and we are the only group has not been compensated. We have to be compensated for that.
And how do you argue against somebody that is against reparations? Considering you said all of that, you will still have people say, I still don't support it.
But that's just I'm white and I say so. We call that I'm white and I say so. Listen, most of the country didn't support black people being free from slavery. They didn't support that. It was black people fighting for that. It was black people who were the Maroons, and I got a movie about the Maroons coming out. Black people fighting from the swamps, attacking plantations. They were destroying most of the plantations in Florida. They don't talk about that. There were black people fighting in the Civil War. If it weren't for the black troops fighting, they would not have won the Civil War. The South was winning at first. They don't tell you that. That's why most of those military schools are in the South. They were winning until the black people joined the Union. Then they started to defeat the South. During the Civil Rights Movement, white people didn't fight for our civil rights. White people were perfectly fine with us living on the other side of the tracks, drinking out of that water fountain over there. It was us stopping that bullshit. It was us moving the needle. They try to remix it now and say, well, white people were walking side by side. No, white people were perfectly fine with what was happening to us. most white people did not want us to have civil rights. We said, no, we're going to get the civil rights and we're going to be treated like human beings. And then we made it happen. We're making it happen with reparations now. I don't give a damn what a white supremacist want or don't want. That person wants me somewhere butt naked, hanging in a tree somewhere. Damn what he want. I want us to get equal and just and equitable treatment, and we're going to get that.
Well, you know, I could sit here and talk to you for a whole nother hour. I'm going to wrap this interview up with this final question, because I think it ties into reparations and slavery. Is what is the legacy of our brother Nat Turner, who led probably the largest slave revolt? I think it was around 1840, 25 years before the emancipation. What is the legacy of someone like Nat Turner? Because sometimes he is celebrated, but sometimes he is vilified because of all the white people that were killed. What's your position
with Nat Turner? He's a phenomenal brother, and that wasn't the biggest slave revolt. I'll get on that in a minute, but his legacy is phenomenal because he sacrificed himself. And this brother saw what was happening and said, hey, I'm going to put my life on the line to stop this or thwart this. And they've been getting generational revenge on Nat Turner for years. Even when he was killed, the white people boiled his body and got his oil and sold his oil. They were selling his skull. The family, his descendants, got his skull back a few years ago. So they've been punishing him in death. But understand that his rebellion was part of a larger play, because there were slave rebellions all up and down that eastern seaboard going down into Florida. And you had black maroons, because when he got caught, Nat Turner, he was going to a place called the Great Dismal Swamp. And that was a sanctuary for runaways and maroons to go where white people could not go. They just caught him before he got there. There were black maroons all up and down the East Coast going into Florida, beating the brakes off the white supremacists. The Seminole Wars was a real slave rebellion. They just don't talk about it in the context of a slave rebellion. You had these black maroons stopping slavery down in Florida, and they were successful to a certain degree because they fought for their freedom and got it. They made a deal with the U.S. to move out to Oklahoma. And that's a whole different story. But I got a movie coming out called American Maroon, should be out in December, to break that whole story down so you can see the legacy of that. And we're still the remnants of that legacy. We still have that maroon Nat Turner spirit where we're fighting against oppression and fighting for justice.
Now, in the Nat Turner rebellion, I think about 50 white people were killed. You said there was someone that did a larger revolt?
Oh, yeah. The black Seminoles down in Florida, man, they were killing U.S. troops by the thousands and killing white people down there in Florida and burning down the plantation.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
But, I look at, even though Nat Turner had a couple of followers, it was a very small group.
It was.
The Seminoles were a tribe.
Yeah. But they don't tell you it was the black Seminoles who were really the military arm doing the most work. And when they got them to Oklahoma, that's how, the only reason they got the Seminole Wars to stop was to free the black people who were about to be captured and send them out to Oklahoma. They had to get them out of Florida in order to stop that war. Black people were beating the brakes off these folks, man.
Yeah, I love the Seminole history. I've always wanted to do a documentary on them because they fought multiple governments, the Spanish government, the British, and the United States. You know, I don't think there's any other group of Native Americans that fought 3 different governments.
Yeah.
And then they went into hiding for a long time.
Yeah.
I think National Geographic said, where were the Seminoles, like 1980, and they had been in the marshes, I guess, for 100 years or something like that?
Yeah, they're living in the swamps. Yeah.
Well, man, I want to appreciate you. I kept you a little over, man, but we had some great conversation.
Good conversation, man. This is going to be good.
We got to do it again, man.
Absolutely.
Like in about 6 months, you got to come back here and do it again, man. And definitely, you should go on American Cholo. You know, I think the reason why American Cholo might not have you is because he might realize you're a voracious debater, and you come with receipts.
Yes.
And some people are intimidated by that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because when I'm debating somebody, I'm not name calling and all that. We're gonna get down to some straightening with the
And I feel like we had a little mini debate here on Puerto Rican role and hip hop.
Yeah.
And I think history remains. We don't know the full history yet. I think when you do your documentary on this, you might uncover some shit like, oh, we didn't know this.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't know
I would
that.
love that. Yeah.
And throw that in there.
I would love it.
Whether it's pro-black or pro-Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
You know.
I would love to find some Puerto Ricans. Show me some Puerto Ricans who created something. I'll give you all the credit in the world.
All right, man. Thanks for coming through Street TV.
My man, I appreciate it.
All right, and that's a wrap.